Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's 11 p.m. It's pretty late, but I found this interesting post at Resetter and I wanted to share it. And this is from Thomas Mahler, who is the developer at Ori and the Blind Forest. And he basically attacked everyone. He attacked the publishers and developers. He attacked the journalists and YouTubers. And he also attacked the gamers themselves. So he left no stone unturned. And we're going to go through it. I'm going to read this post out, and then afterwards I'll give you my thoughts. So the title of this post is "Why are gamers so eager to trust and even forgive the snake oil salesman?" And he writes, "This is something that's been bothering me for a while, and I get kind of riled up about it every time I see it unfold. And every time it keeps happening, people keep falling for it. It all started with Molyneux. He was the master of, instead of telling you what my product is, let me just go wild with what I think it could be and get you all excited. And that was fine until you actually put your money down, and then the game was nothing like what Peter was hyping it up to be. He pulled this shit for a good decade or more, with journalists and gamers listening to Uncle Peter and the amazing things he's doing for the industry. It took him to realize some pretty damn shoddy games for press and gamers to finally not listen to the lies anymore." Then came Sean Murray, who apparently had learned straight from the Peter Molyneux handbook. This guy apparently just loved the spotlight. Even days before No Man's Sky released, he hyped up the multiplayer that didn't even exist and was all too happy to let people think that No Man's Sky was Minecraft in space, where you could literally do anything. You being able to do everything is generally a common theme behind the gaming snake oil salesman, because hey, that sort of attracts everybody. Obviously, there was a massive backlash when No Man's Sky finally released, and the product being nothing like what Murray hyped it up to be. But what happened then? They released a bunch of updates. So let's forget about the initial lies and deception, and hey, let's actually shower him with awards again, because he finally kind of sort of delivered on what he said the game would be years earlier. Thanks, Jeff Keighley. Rewarding that kind of behavior will surely help the industry grow stronger. And then came Cyberpunk, made by the guys that made Witcher 3, so this shit had to be good. Here's our Cyberpunk universe, and trust us, you can do effing everything. Here, the entire CDPR PR department took all the cues from what worked for Molyneux and Murray and just went completely apeshit with it. Gamers were to believe that this is science fiction GTA in first person. What's not to love? Every video released by CDPR was carefully crafted to create a picture in players' minds that was just insanely compelling. They stopped just short of outright saying that this thing would cure cancer. This strategy resulted in a sensational 8 million pre-orders. What happened then was this, which is a video from Beat 'em Ups. The product was a fraction of what the developer hyped it up to be, and on top of that, it barely even ran on consoles that it was supposed to run surprisingly well on. I'd argue that all three of those are clear examples of you folks all being made fools of, and even the journalists in this industry happily playing along each and every single time. And let me also say, from the perspective of a developer, all of this just sucks. Back in 2014, I remember some journalists from some big publication telling us that Ori almost got the cover article of some magazine I read frequently, but ultimately they had to pick No Man's Sky because it was the bigger game. I kind of agreed back then, thinking to myself, okay, I get it. They have to promote the bigger game. They obviously have to go for the clicks. Sucks, but that's how the game is played. But then I really felt bamboozled once No Man's Sky came out, and it became clear that all this hype was really just built on lies. And the honest guy who just showed his actual product really got kicked in the balls because the lying guy was able to make up some tall tales that held absolutely no substance. I know this whole thread might come off as me sounding bitter, and I'm sure there'll be some people that see this as me shitting on other devs. No, I'm not. I'm shitting on liars and people that are okay with openly deceiving others. I'd argue that we should all agree that this shit is not okay. If I go and buy a car and the car salesman sells me a car that supposedly has 300 horsepower, but on the drive home after the purchase, I notice that he switched out the motor when I wasn't looking, I'd be rightfully pissed off because I was deceived. And yet gamers and journalists don't really seem to mind all that much. Yeah, the backlash is coming, but usually you see a ton of people then arguing that they like the game that came out of it anyway. That is so not the point. It doesn't matter if the snake oil actually tastes fine. Don't sell me on features that don't exist. Don't paint a picture that you'll not be able to deliver. Just don't effing lie to me. You're effing over gamers. You're effing over journalists that should know better, so shame on you. And you're effing over other developers. There, I said my piece, felt like a chip I needed to get off my shoulder, and I think this is a wrong that we should set right so that this won't happen anymore. So that was a pretty epic rant from Thomas Mahler, and I know some people might think he went overboard because, well, you may like Cyberpunk 2077 or No Man's Sky. You didn't think those games were too bad. You might even have liked old Peter Molyneux games. But I think he is just trying to be open and honest about what actually happened or how he feels about the whole situation. And I think what he's really trying to say is that there's just no ethical behavior anymore, or there's no regulations. Who is regulating the gaming industry? It seems like you can just about get away with anything. You could tell any lie that you want to, and there's just no way people can prove you wrong until, of course, the game comes out, and then people can see what that game actually is. But by then, you've already taken everybody's money, so then it's all too late. And I suppose if you have a free-to-play model, then that would alleviate some of those issues. But if you pay for the game beforehand, well, you could just serve up anything. And who is actually regulating the quality of this? Well, it's just game journalists, right? And reviews. So that's a pretty weak or low barrier to pass. So I think that's what's going on, is that these publishers and developers, they see that all they have to do is convince these journalists and YouTubers that their game is great. And these journalists and YouTubers, they're also very young people in some cases. People who are 20 don't think they're young, but they really are. And you have people who, these YouTubers and journalists who may be like between their 20s and 30s. But we have developers who are in their 40s and 50s, people who have been in the gaming industry for a long time, who've been there for 20 or 30 years, and they know how to promote the game where they can tell it to you in a way where they sidestep some of those issues. They don't tell you about everything in the game. Certainly, like with the Cyberpunk case, they didn't tell everybody what was going on with the PlayStation 4 version or the Xbox One version, and they're able to make rules up, right? They can set whatever rules that they want. They even had a rule where you couldn't show any of the footage of the game that you actually played before their embargo. And for their reviews, for the first review, you had to post B-roll footage that they approved of already. So you had to show footage from official sources. And obviously what happens is that you have these YouTubers, maybe they don't have very many subscribers, or they all feel like they're in a competition with other YouTubers, that they feel like, okay, well, I'm just going to sign up to anything Cyberpunk because then I'm going to get lots of views and that's going to help promote my channel. And I don't mind so much. I will still give my honest opinion, but I will help these developers out because I think they're doing me a favor, so I'm going to do them a favor. And who is actually benefiting here? It's the developer and the publisher, and not actually the gamers who actually watch these reviews. So what we have here is that we have three things. We have the developers and the publishers. Their main objective is to make money, and I think most of these larger companies, large corporations, want to make money more than they want to make a good quality game. They know that if they make a good quality game, the money will follow, but their objective is to make money first. And so if anything gets in the way of that, then they will always side with the money first. And that's why we see with Cyberpunk 2077, even though it wasn't such a good game to begin with, then they started to put in rules in place where you wouldn't be able to tell, so that wouldn't affect the sales of the game. Now, secondly, you have journalists and YouTubers who are reviewing these games or promoting these games, and you have to ask the question, well, whose side are these YouTubers and journalists actually on? Are they on the side of the gamers who are actually going to be buying the game afterwards, or actually on the side of publishers and developers where they're helping them promote the game. So it feels like there's a very, very gray area where nobody's really sure, and these YouTubers and reviewers and journalists, all they're doing is they're happy to be in this gray zone rather than taking one side or the other. And maybe it's time that these people also have to decide for themselves, well, whose side are they really on? Can they really be on both sides of the equation? So thirdly, we have the gamers who, generally speaking, if they like a publisher or developer or they like their games, they're generally going to buy them, and they don't want to see their company fail. So they want to keep them going no matter what their ethical behavior is going to be. And so I think this is a very gray area of like what to do. Certainly, I don't have a good answer for this because, for example, if you like Cyberpunk 2077, but you didn't agree with the developer behavior towards reviews, then do you buy the game or do you sit this one out? So for me, like, I bought the game anyway, but does that mean I condone the behavior? And I don't. So I think it's a very tricky one to answer. But anyways, that's going to be it for this one. Let me know your thoughts on the issue, and let me know how you think the gaming industry is going in 2021 as we start a new generation of games. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to click the like button and also to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one.